The charge against you tonight is that you were looking to create a political tamasha, looking to create an opportunity to earn political brownie points, that you never really wanted to have a debate, a discussion where you could have pinned the government down. You wanted that there be this big tamasha. How do you respond to that? Pawan Khera, let's start.
Our microphones are switched off. We are interrupted every time we get up to say something, to raise our voice on a particular issue. Mr. Prahlad Joshi would stand up and interrupt. Other ministers would stand up and interrupt. Now these tears of Mr. Venkaiah Naidu are tears of helplessness. He can't control the thuggery that's going on from the treasury benches, and I understand his helplessness. We are all feeling helpless. The country is feeling. But having said that, in the last 7 years, I think this was the best session of the parliament where people's issues were raised. The entire country heard, thanks to people like you who raised those issues. You allowed us to raise these issues on your channels. Parliament it serves the people.
In today's day and age, when the Rajya Sabha proceedings, the Lok Sabha proceedings are going live on television, on YouTube channel, on social media, he actually thinks that the government can get away by switching off microphones and so on and so forth. He's perhaps reminded of the time when his government shut down the parliament and passed the AP reorganization bill in the middle of the night. But that's Congress's DNA and their nature, and I would not want to go into it. The country knows about it, and that's why they've reduced them to 40 odd seats that they have in the Lok Sabha today. The opposition played ball with the government where it mattered, where it was political, and they could not be seen as opposing it. The OBC amendment bill which was brought into the parliament, the entire opposition in unison came around because they did not want to be seen as antagonizing the OBC community. But on everything else, they held the House hostage because it was politically expedient for them to do so.
27% reservations already there for OBCs. More castes now want to be part of that. And increasingly in Parliament, the debate today was raise the bar over 50%.
In the central universities, in the IITs, in the ambassadorial positions, in Supreme Courts, everywhere, leave alone the reserved Shudras who are called constitutionally earlier OBCs, but the non-reserved Shudras who were earlier opposing, they being included in OBC category in 1990 Mandal position, do not figure at all. Look at JNU. The Vijay caste, Brahmin, Baniya, Kayastha, Khatris constitute almost 95% of staff. Now, there are no intellectuals from these communities.
If you look at higher education today, there's been a lot of development. SCs make up 16.6% of population. They're 14.5% of students. ST make up 8.8% of population. There are 5.8% of students. Sadly, the Muslims make up 15%. They're only 5.2%. They're the most backward in this country. And the OBC makes up 40%. They're 36% of students. Our educational reservation policy has given voice to many people who are not part of higher education. And if you look at the government jobs, excluding maybe the top two position, top two categories, they've got their due share.
When politicians say that they want to do something for farmers, it is not because their heart beats for them, but because they want to get their votes. When someone says, I want to protect women, it could just be that you want to get women's votes. So there's nothing wrong with that. To my mind, the amazing thing is that every time any discussion on reservation begins, this country wants to go back to point zero. And certainly, I mean, I should not say this country, but the opinion-making class of this country wants to go back to point zero and reinitiate the entire discussion because there's so much unease with the basic fact of reservation.
We have to balance reservation. We have to balance affirmative action with ensuring that there is better quality of education and better access to education in India. Everybody wants reservation. The political class wants reservation. They just say, look, that's the easiest way. And I'm sorry to say this, but that's across the board. It doesn't make a difference who's speaking about it.
Do students actually go to Pakistan to study medicine? Or is Syed Ali Shah Gilani giving recommendation for admission to Pakistan's colleges only in name? The real recommendation
is that they are being sent to some madrasa of terror run by Professor Hafiz Saeed or some terrorist training camp run by that Maulana of terror, Masood Azhar.
We should raise the finger towards our system first. See, other countries doing it since decades, and we are all aware of it. But who is to be held responsible? I am afraid that this government is not taking anything on their shoulders. They are always meant to put everything on Pakistan and other things.
Pakistan can teach only what it specializes in, and that is terrorism, known all over the world. And the gullible boys of Kashmir, who are desperate to seek admissions in medical and engineering colleges, do fall prey, and they feel it was much easier to get a letter from Hurriyat leader Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani or somebody else influential who can get them visa in Kashmir, in Pakistan embassy in Delhi, and admission in a Pakistani university. And it's also a hawala racket. This money which is taken for admission in the university or a medical college or engineering college in Pakistan is also used to fund terrorism. So it is a both-way cutting sword.
The amount of work which the local administration in last 2 years and the local police has done to identify the overground workers and ensuring that action is taken against them, either they are arrested or whatever required action under the Act are taken against them. One, that's why NI has been ongoingly reading in Valley people who are connected with Jamaat-e-Islamiyya or with other organizations.